Chapter 1. The Illusion of Security. David Warner was a man who thrived on routine. His life in the peaceful suburbs of San Francisco was as predictable as the tides, and he liked it that way. He woke up every morning at exactly 6:30 a.m., jogged for half an hour, had breakfast with his family, and then drove to work, where he spent his day buried in codes and systems. As a senior IT professional at a reputable tech firm, David was a master of the digital world. However, his expertise would soon be put to the ultimate test. One evening, as David sat at his workstation, he received an email. It was from an unknown sender, but the subject line piqued his interest: security breach. As he clicked to open it, a chill ran down his spine. The email claimed that his personal data had been compromised and advised him to change his passwords immediately. A feeling of dread washed over David. He quickly started to check his bank accounts, credit card statements, and other sensitive data. Everything seemed normal. He decided to reach out to his friend John, who worked in cybersecurity.
"John,"
David said, nervously clutching his phone.
"I think something's wrong."
John's voice, usually so calm and collected, wavered slightly on the other end.
"What's happened, David?" "I got an email saying my personal data has been compromised. I thought it was just spam, but then I checked my account activity." "And?"
John prompted when David's voice trailed off.
"And my personal email has been accessed from somewhere in Eastern Europe. John, I've never been to Eastern Europe."
A heavy silence hung between them before John finally spoke.
"David, I need you to stay calm. We'll figure this out. Let's start by securing your accounts."
Following John's instructions, David began to change his passwords. His fingers flew across the keyboard, each click echoing the pounding of his heart. As he worked, he could hear John on the other end, typing away, already digging into the breach. After what felt like an eternity, David finished securing his accounts.
"Done,"
he said, trying to steady his breathing.
"Good.
John replied.
I'm looking into the breach now. We'll find this guy, David. You're not alone in this."
As David hung up the phone, he sat in the chilling silence of his office. He stared at the screens, his mind racing. His world, once so predictable, was spinning into chaos. But he wasn't alone. He had a fight ahead, and he was ready. Chapter 2. The Unseen Intruder. In the quiet darkness of his home office, the blue light from his computer screen reflecting in his glasses, David sat hunched over his keyboard. His fingers moved over the keys with a life of their own. His mind focused on one thing: the unseen intruder who'd breached his life. John was still on the line, navigating David through the tangle of digital security.
"Okay, David, we need to check every account, not just bank and credit cards. Think of anything that might hold sensitive information."
David nodded, even though he knew John couldn't see him.
"All right, let me think. The kids' school accounts, the utilities, our retirement accounts. Oh, God, Anna's medical records, they're all online now."
"Calm down, David.
John's voice was steady, grounding him.
We'll go through them one at a time."
Hours passed as they combed through each account meticulously. Some were untouched, others had suspicious activity. David's heart sank with each discovery. The shadowy figure in cyberspace was becoming realer, more threatening. Eventually, they had done all they could for the night.
"David!"
John sighed.
"You need to go to the authorities now. I'll continue investigating on my end."
David paused, staring at the screen that had now become a window into his nightmare.
"What if they can't catch him, John? What then?"
"We'll figure it out, David. We always do. Remember when we first started at the firm and we thought we couldn't handle it? We managed then. We'll manage now."
A small smile tugged at the corner of David's mouth.
"You're right, John. Thank you."
As he hung up the phone, the weight of the night's events settled heavily on his shoulders. Tomorrow, he would report to the authorities and face the fallout of this digital invasion. For now, he was in the eye of the storm, alone with his thoughts and the silent hum of his computer. Chapter 3. Codes and Clues. As the morning sun peeked through the blinds, David found himself at the local police station, recounting his nightmarish experience. Across the table, Detective Laura Harper listened attentively, her keen eyes studying David. As a seasoned investigator of cybercrimes, she had seen the fear in David's eyes more times than she cared to count.
Mr. Warner, we'll do everything we can to find the person behind this,
Harper assured, her tone professional yet empathetic.
I'm going to need access to your devices and accounts to track this guy.
David nodded, understanding the necessity of the intrusion.
Of course, Detective Harper. I just want my life back.
Hours later, David found himself back in his home office, the room seeming all the more ominous. As he fired up his computer, a Skype call from John popped up.
David, how'd it go with the police?
John asked, his face tight with concern.
Good, I guess.
David shrugged.
Detective Harper is handling my case. She seems competent.
John nodded.
That's good, David. Listen, I've been digging around and I found something you should see.
John shared his screen, revealing lines of complex code. David's heart pounded as he saw what John was pointing at, a digital fingerprint left behind by the hacker.
This is our first real clue, isn't it?
David asked, his voice barely above a whisper. John nodded.
Yes, and it's a good one. David, this hacker is clever, but they're not invisible. We'll catch them.
Chapter 4. Echoes of the Past. Detective Harper had been working tirelessly, following the digital breadcrumbs left behind by the hacker. Meanwhile, David found himself sinking into the depths of his past, searching for any signs of a grudge or revenge that could point to a motive for this cyber assault.
Anna,
David said one evening as they sat quietly in their living room.
can you think of anyone who might want to do this to us? Anyone we've upset or crossed in the past?
Anna paused, her mind searching.
I don't know, David. I mean, we keep to ourselves mostly. We don't have any enemies.
Could it be someone from work?
David asked, his mind racing through his colleagues.
Someone passed over for a promotion, maybe, or someone I had to fire.
Anna shook her head, her eyes filled with worry.
David, you can't blame yourself. This person, whoever they are, they're the one in the wrong.
David sighed, running a hand through his hair.
I know, Anna. If I could figure out why, maybe I could figure out who.
The conversation lingered, the questions hanging heavy in the room. Despite their attempts to piece together the puzzle, the hacker's identity remained shrouded in mystery. Meanwhile, John continued to dig through the digital maze, the clue they had found becoming a beacon in the darkness. Despite the challenges, they were making progress.
David!
John said during their nightly call.
We're getting closer. This code, it's complex, but it has a pattern. It's like the hacker's signature. I'm confident we'll trace it back to the source.
Chapter 5. Confrontation in Cyberspace. While David grappled with the echoes of his past, the battle in the digital realm was gaining momentum. John, with his vast experience in cybersecurity, had devised a plan to lure the hacker into a trap.
David,
John said during their Skype call.
I've set up a digital honeypot. It's a decoy system filled with fake data. If we can lure the hacker into it, we could trap them, trace their location.
David blinked, the plan sounding straight out of a sci-fi movie.
But, John, how can we be sure they'll fall for it?
John grinned.
Because, my friend, everyone has a weakness. And our hacker's weakness? They're greedy.
Days turned into nights as they baited their trap, the tension building. The anticipation was palpable, their every conversation filled with an underlying current of excitement and fear. Finally, late one night, John's voice rang out from the computer speakers.
David, we got him. He's in the honeypot.
David watched the screen, his heart pounding as lines of code swirled before his eyes. This was it, their first real confrontation with the unseen intruder. But just as quickly as the moment came, it slipped away.
Damn it. He slipped away, David,
John said, frustration evident in his voice.
But not before I got this.
On the screen was a set of numbers, an IP address. Their hacker had escaped the trap, but not without leaving behind another clue. Chapter 6. The IP Trail. The IP address, a unique identifier for each device connected to the internet, was the latest breadcrumb in their trail. David and John, along with Detective Harper, worked diligently to trace the address.
John,
Detective Harper said during their conference call.
we traced the IP address. It's from a coffee shop in Prague.
Prague?
David echoed, his heart sinking. The vast geographical distance seemed to underscore the enormity of their task.
But
Harper continued.
it's likely the hacker used a VPN to mask their real location. They could be anywhere in the world.
Despite the setback, they were undeterred. The IP address, while not leading them directly to the hacker, provided another piece of the puzzle. Days turned into weeks, and the investigation continued. David and Anna lived in a state of constant vigilance, while John and Detective Harper followed the digital trail. Despite the progress, the hacker's identity remained elusive. One evening, as David sat reviewing his bank statements for any irregularities, a new email notification popped up. His heart skipped a beat as he recognized the subject line. It was the same as the one from his hacked personal email.
They're back.
He whispered, a chill running down his spine. He quickly dialed John, his hands shaking.
John, I got another email. It's them.
Chapter 7. The Message. David's heart pounded as he opened the new email. It was a simple message, chilling in its brevity. Stop chasing shadows. He felt the blood drain from his face. This wasn't just a random attack anymore. The hacker was aware of their pursuit.
David,
John said, his voice calm but firm.
forward me the email. We need to analyze it for any hidden information.
While the message sent waves of fear through David for John and Detective Harper, it was another clue, another opportunity to unmask the hacker. Meanwhile, David's life began to unravel under the strain. Anna tried to provide a semblance of normalcy for their children, but the stress was evident. Their once peaceful home was now the center of a digital battlefield.
David,
Anna said one night, her voice filled with concern.
we can't go on like this. We need to tell the kids.
David nodded, knowing she was right. They sat their two children down, explaining the situation in terms they could understand. It was a difficult conversation, but it brought them closer, strengthening their resolve to fight back. Back in the digital realm, John and Detective Harper were making progress. The email, while seemingly simple, contained hidden metadata, information about the sender's device and location.
David!
John said, excitement in his voice.
We've traced the email to a server in Toronto. It's another lead and a strong one.
Chapter 8. The Toronto Connection. Armed with the lead to Toronto, Detective Harper reached out to her counterparts in the Toronto Police Service. Within days, a joint operation was underway to trace the server and possibly unearth the hacker's identity. Meanwhile, David found himself navigating the dual challenges of fortifying his digital life and maintaining a sense of normalcy for his family. He had become an unlikely soldier in a battle that was fought not on a physical battlefield, but in the invisible realm of cyberspace.
John,
David asked during their daily update.
do you think this Toronto lead is the breakthrough we need?
John, ever the optimist, responded.
Every lead brings us one step closer, David. We're dealing with a clever adversary, but they're not infallible. We just need to stay patient.
Back in Toronto, the police had identified the server's location, a small tech company specializing in cloud storage. The company was cooperative, providing logs and access to their systems. The digital hunt was intensifying. One evening, as David sat down for dinner with his family, his phone buzzed. It was a text message from John. "We got something. Call me ASAP." David's heart pounded as he dialed John's number, the hum of conversation around the dinner table fading into the background.
John, what is it? Did they find the hacker?
Chapter 9. Unmasking the Ghost. David's call with John was a flurry of information. The Toronto tech company's logs had revealed an anomaly. A user who accessed their servers at the same time the hacker had sent the threatening email.
The user's account is registered under a false name, but we've traced their payment method.
John explained, his voice laced with excitement.
David, we have a name.
David's heart pounded in his chest. This was it, the moment they had been working towards. The hacker was no longer a faceless ghost in the machine. They had a name, an identity. While Detective Harper and the Toronto police moved to apprehend the suspect, David was left with the daunting task of confronting the person who had wreaked havoc on his life.
David,
Anna said, her hand reaching out to squeeze his.
are you sure you want to do this?
David nodded, steeling himself.
I need to face them, Anna. I need to know why they did this.
As the suspect was brought into custody, David found himself face to face with a young woman barely out of her teens. She was the hacker, the puppet master who had turned his life upside down.
Why?
David asked, his voice steady despite the wild emotions roiling within him. Chapter 10. The motive revealed. The hacker, a young woman named Emily, looked at David, her eyes reflecting a mix of defiance and fear. As she began to speak, her words unveiled a story that was as surprising as it was heartbreaking. Emily was a gifted coder who had fallen into the wrong crowd online. Lured by the promise of easy money and the thrill of outsmarting the system, she had become a pawn in a larger cybercrime ring.
I didn't mean to ruin your life.
Emily confessed, her voice shaking.
I was just supposed to steal some money, not this.
David listened, his anger slowly giving way to a profound sense of sadness. Emily was not the hardened criminal he had envisioned, but a misguided youth caught in a dangerous web.
Emily,
David said, his voice calm.
you made a choice, and choices have consequences.
Meanwhile, armed with Emily's confession, Detective Harper and the Toronto police began to dismantle the cybercrime ring. What had started as a case of identity theft had revealed a much larger operation, affecting hundreds of victims. Chapter 11. The Outcome. With Emily's arrest and the subsequent dismantling of the cybercrime ring, David's life began to regain some semblance of normalcy. The bank restored his finances, and his digital identity was gradually re-established.
David,
John said during one of their calls.
we're implementing new security measures to ensure this doesn't happen again. You and your family will be safe.
David nodded, thankful for John's unwavering support throughout this ordeal. He was ready to move forward, but he knew the experience had changed him. Meanwhile, Emily's case became a media sensation. Her story served as a cautionary tale, highlighting the dangers and ethical dilemmas of the digital age. The public, captivated by the drama, followed the case with great interest. Anna, always the rock of the family, facilitated their healing. She organized family activities and engaged the children in open conversations about what had happened. Their family bond, tested by the crisis, emerged stronger than ever. David, reflecting on the events, felt a renewed sense of purpose. He decided to use his experience to educate others about cybersecurity, turning his ordeal into a force for positive change. Chapter 12. The Cybersecurity Crusader. David's decision to become an advocate for cybersecurity marked a new chapter in his life. He began to share his story, speaking at schools, businesses, and community events about the importance of digital safety.
John,
David said during one of their planning sessions.
I want to ensure no one else has to go through what we did.
John nodded, his respect for David deepening.
David, you're turning a negative experience into something positive. That's admirable.
Meanwhile, Emily's trial continued, her actions scrutinized in the court of law and public opinion. Her story served as a stark reminder of the potential fallout of poor choices and ethical compromises in the digital world. Back at home, David's new mission brought a sense of unity and purpose to his family. Anna and the kids became involved in his advocacy work, turning their shared trauma into a cause for action. As David navigated his new role, he found unexpected fulfillment. His story, once a source of personal turmoil, was now a tool for education and prevention.